Jacob Hsu currently serves as the CEO of Catalyte. Prior to joining Catalyte, Jacob was CEO at Symbio, a global IT services company. Jacob was also CEO of Trilogica and CEO of Epitome, and he began his career in investment banking. He was selected to be a young global leader by the World Economic Forum and was named as one of the world's top 12 CEOs by Chief Executive magazine. Mary Miller is a Democrat running for mayor of Baltimore, her home of 34 years. In 2010, President Obama appointed Mary to lead our country's recovery from the Great Recession. As the first woman to serve as the Undersecretary for Domestic Finance at the U.S. Treasury Department, Mary oversaw the entire U.S. economy. Mary left the Obama administration determined to help strengthen her hometown and now helps women and people of color to start small businesses and revitalize historically neglected areas of the city. I'm Edward Warfield, publisher of City Biz and Warfield. I'm honored today to host an interview between Jacob Hsu, CEO of Catalyte, and mayoral candidate Mary Miller on revitalizing Baltimore.
Mary, how do you envision making Baltimore a better place to do business?
The city needs to be much more hospitable to growth, is the way I express that. We need to do everything we can to retain the businesses that are here, to help them grow, and to attract new businesses to Baltimore by being an attractive place to locate and build your business. We can design a tax structure that is more friendly to growth. We have a very uncompetitive property tax rate in Baltimore that is 2 times that of surrounding areas. I would like to develop the plan to reduce the property tax rate and make the city more reliant on other forms of income. To me, the most obvious form of other income is to grow jobs in Baltimore and to have a higher income base in the city. So more of our revenues are coming through the income tax, not raising the income tax rate, raising the base of income in the city. And that calls for a very significant economic development plan for the city that is going to be driving the industries that we know can thrive here, connecting our workforce with the jobs that can be created, and having a very intentional plan to do that. We have many assets in the city. We have our location, which is great. We have our industries that are here already, our nonprofits that are here already, which are very committed to Baltimore. But 2 that I see that we haven't really transformed are, 1, our huge supply of vacant housing in Baltimore that I regard as an asset that can be brought to life and can bring more tax revenue to the city. And we also have a large group of people who are unemployed, ready to be trained, ready to be put to work. That's what I think a strong economic development plan can entail. So those are sort of the key elements of what I think we need to be doing in Baltimore. We're very focused, of course, locally, looking at what our needs are, but I'd like to ask you, as someone who's relatively new to Baltimore, what brought you here from California, and what do you see as Baltimore's assets?
Baltimore's assets really are its people. And I really mean that, right? I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. And I've seen this, and I can tell you, I can compare and contrast Silicon Valley, where I'm from, and Baltimore. Baltimore wouldn't, and I'll use Retrain America as a good example. Right? It took us about 3 weeks from idea to launching this. And the reason why we could do it so quickly was because every person that we called and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this, they said, amazing, how can I help? Right. And I have gotten this community here. There's a community of people who are really who really are all in terms of turning Baltimore around, in terms of really driving and fixing some of the problems that we all know are prevalent. And there's as the moment I got here, people started telling me Smaltimore, right? And I think there is something that is an asset in and of itself. The fact that very quickly you can reach business leaders, government leaders, foundation leaders, and you can activate a wide swath of leaders who actually want to help, who want to be part of that solution. Well, Mary, I mean, how do you plan to ensure that all the neighborhoods benefit from revitalization?
That is the question, Jake. I am so glad that Baltimore today is talking very openly and honestly about systemic racism and how that has defined our city. We have not had a fair and even distribution of investment across Baltimore. Today, I sit on the board of the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund, which is driving capital into projects in areas of the city that have been left behind. That is a very good start. But we also need to look at the stock of vacant housing in Baltimore. We have between 16 and 17,000 vacant houses every year in Baltimore that are a source of enormous blight in the neighborhoods where they're located and need to be brought back to life and brought back as affordable housing for people living in the city, and importantly, part of our tax base again in Baltimore. So I think attacking the vacant housing stock in Baltimore in a much bigger way. Typically, we take a few hundred houses back each year, but a few hundred more come back on the rolls as vacant. We're not making any progress. And I think this would be part of a strategy to take thousands of homes back. So that would be part of my plan to address neighborhoods that need investment. I also think looking at Baltimore, as you point out, we're a city of neighborhoods, 280, I believe was the last count I heard. That's made it hard for the neighborhoods to effectively work with the city. There's so many of them. And I've been talking to the community development corporations that often sit astride these neighborhoods and thinking about how we can find more scale through the CDCs, the community development corporations, to aggregate geographic areas to meaningful entities to put capital in and to help the CDCs drive investment. Because I think the best investment occurs when you have strong community engagement and they have bought in to the vision and the plan. And I think the city can do a better job with that. When I look at the fiscal 2021 budget, it's kind of a business as usual budget with a haircut on it for the coronavirus impact. But nothing's really changed in terms of the way we are putting capital into neighborhoods and communities. I would make that a bigger priority in the budget, because that's our opportunity to really drive change in Baltimore, to make those sort of investments in tandem with the communities who will then benefit from that investment. Now, you've got to do this carefully. Other cities have run into big problems with gentrification and a lot of disenchantment because people have had to move out of the neighborhoods that they're so invested in. We can get ahead of that in Baltimore. There are good examples of ways to do this, that you preserve the rights and value for people who live in these communities now. But that takes planning and it takes work. But that is the opportunity that I see for Baltimore, that we have such a underinvested city that's crying out for the kind of investments we can make that can be very inclusive for the people in the city and give everyone better paths here. So I'm excited to do that.
That's exciting. That's exciting, especially the aspect of really encouraging the home ownership and really focusing on sort of getting that blight into the hands of hopefully people who actually going to take care of them. I mean, that's one of the things that I personally have seen a lot. I mean, when I drive around Baltimore, I just see this amazing city, this amazing infrastructure, right? And some of the toughest neighborhoods, you could see. Right, you can see how amazing these neighborhoods can be if we can just start turning around this underinvestment problem that the city has faced.
And while you're doing that, I think in these neighborhoods, you also want to re-commercialize them. So you're giving people who live in the neighborhoods the amenities that they need, particularly grocery stores. We have about 25% of the city that live in so-called food deserts, where they do not have access to healthy food and good shopping opportunities. That's a problem we can solve at the same time. We could also work on our environmental issues as we're stabilizing neighborhoods and bringing them back with more green space, more tree canopy, more types of urban investment in stormwater management that can make these neighborhoods more attractive aesthetically, but also more healthy for the people that are living here. There's a lot of holistic benefit that can come from bringing a neighborhood back. And I think that with the right designs, we could do some amazing things in Baltimore.